Hey there, greetings from Tepic, Nayarit. My name is Jesiah. I'm from La Fuente Ministries, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Love Angela and Justin Jakewith. Love everything that's going on at the house, and it's such a privilege to be able to be with you guys. Obviously, we're not gathering in mass right now because I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a global pandemic happening. But what an honor to be able to be connected, and what a time to be alive, to where even though we can't be with each other physically, we can do this and be together in this way. So it's such an honor to be a part of what you guys are doing. Love everything that's going on in the house Guadalajara and everybody that's watching in. We're so happy you're here. And I have a word that's been really burning on my heart, that's been for me. So I might as well be preaching to a mirror right now, because this is a word for me for this time. And it comes out of Exodus 17. So read along with me, okay? Exodus 17, verse 1 says, "The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped in Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses, said, 'Give us water to drink.' Moses replied, 'Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?' But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, 'Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and our livestock die of thirst?' Then Moses cried out to the Lord, 'What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me.' The Lord answered Moses, 'Go out in front of the people. Take with you the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and the water will come out of it for the people to drink.' So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled, and because they tested the Lord, saying, 'Is the Lord among us or not?'" So the reason I want to talk about this verse is because I think we're all feeling the need. We're all thirsty in a way. We all need something. We're living in a time of need. You probably need something as important, as vital as health, money, provision. Maybe it's something a little different, like you're thirsty for creativity and productivity. You need help. You need some kind of answer. We need truth. I mean, who's not desperate for some truth during this time? We're in times of great need. Worldwide, this is happening in Mexico, in the US, in Canada, and all over the world. We're in a time of need. And this is a problem. When we're in a time of need, the temptation is to take that need as evidence of the absence of God. We start believing that God is not with us because we are in need. We need money, we need help, we need family, we need something. So if we need, then God must not be with us. I don't know how it is where you are, but where I live, a lot of Christians started, because they were in need, they took it as the absence of God. This totally happened to me. The next step is you start violating common sense. See, as common sense dictated that we should probably close down for a while, that we should stay at home, that we should wash our hands, use some kind of face protection, stay away from the vulnerable and the old. And as a community, we decided on this, and we decided, you know what, this is the right thing to do. We probably griped about it a little bit, but what starts happening is that we start testing God, because we feel now that we're in a time of need, he must not be present. So God, prove that you're with me. Prove it by protecting me without me protecting myself. So I saw it all over Facebook. I'm not going to use a face mask. I'm not going to wash my hands. I'm going to keep on going to my family's house. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to keep doing that because the Lord is with me and nothing is going to happen to me. So God, protect me. So we start going overboard. We start breaking common sense because the Lord has to be with me. This was one of the 3 temptations that Satan gave to Jesus. If God is with you, why don't you jump from this tower and see how the angels catch you? See, Jesus saw that temptation and said, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Because this is what starts happening. Because we are in need, we take that need as evidence of the absence of God. So in fear, we start taking apparent steps of faith. We call it faith, but it's really fear. And we start saying, God, if you're with me, take care of me. Prove it. And we start testing him. If you're with us, then you would give us water. If you're with us, you would give us health. If you were with us, you would give us money. You would help us out. You would get rid of this virus. You would open up the world again. Where are you? We start quarreling. We start fighting with God himself. Maybe we don't do this consciously, but our actions sometimes speak louder than words. Where are you? And we start testing God. See, it starts taking us to start testing him in our actions. We start testing him in our thoughts and in our prayers. But the thing is, the Bible does talk about times of need. Over and over again, we see this happening. And not because we're going through times of need does that necessarily mean that God is not with us. Take, for example, Psalm 34 that says, God is our ever-present help. Or let's just go to Psalm 23 that starts off saying, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That's clear right there, right? If God is with me, then I shall not want. There's no wanting to be had because I have everything I need. And then it goes a couple verses down into, even though I pass through the shadow of the valley of death, I shall fear no evil because you are with me. Yeah, you're with me. So counterintuitive, because we think that if we're lacking in something, then God is not with us. But the Bible actually teaches us that even though we go through times of lacking, he's an ever-present help. He's always there. He's with us. And if we think he's not with us, then fear takes over. Fear starts driving our lives. Fear starts dictating our decisions. But fear, even though we all feel it at times, there's no problem with feeling it, but fear should never be a welcome option for a believer, for someone who's put their faith and trust in God. So in times of need, the temptation is to dictate that need as proof, as evidence, take that need as evidence of the absence of God. And if God's not here, then I need to take control over my own life. I think that's the problem with this verse is that, you start worrying about you, your family. Did you bring us out here to kill us? To kill our kids? To let our livestock die? Livestock is basically all their provision. You take me out here to die? So we can't let fear overtake. We need to live by faith. And we need to trust that God is with us even though we go through times of lack, times of need, times where we probably want. Even though we cross the shadow of the valley of death, we need to keep trusting that he is with us. So in times of need, what is our calling as believers? Well, our calling is to look for the peace and prosperity of our city. Look out for the good of our city, of our community, of our family. And look for the good for others. Bring good to others. Bring peace to others, to our neighbor. Yeah, there's this crazy story in Jeremiah. Basically, Israel's in another. you follow their story. They're in Egypt. God takes them out of Egypt. They go through this period of time that's pretty horrible in the desert, but God is with them, takes them into the promised land. They build this great kingdom. They stray away from God. Then they're exiled to Babylon. When they're exiled to Babylon, some false prophets step up and start saying, no. The best is yet to come. We're going to go back soon. Don't worry about it. Don't unpack. We're going home. There's no problem. Let's just go home. And what happens is Jeremiah comes up. He's speaking on behalf of God. He says, no. This is going to be about 70 years. We're going to stay here for a while. So you know what? Build houses. Yeah, plant some vineyards. Have children. Find wives and husbands for those children. So then you can have grandchildren. And look for the welfare of the city. Because in the welfare of the city, you will find your welfare. Yeah. See, we look for peace and we look for prosperity and always in another spot, right? If I was only there, back there, over there, in a geographical location, outside of a certain relationship, if I was only over there, then I would be prosperous, I'd have peace, I'd be happy, I'd be okay. But our calling as believers, as the church, is to find the welfare of the city. Look for it by establishing it. You want peace? Bring peace to others, because in their peace you will find your peace. You want to find prosperity? Look for prosperity for others, and in that you will find your prosperity. Yeah, your wellness, your happiness, you'll find it in searching for happiness in others. Especially in times of need, especially in times of fear, like the times that we're living in now. I mean, it really is chaotic. Who would have guessed that the world would shake this hard in 2020? It's rough. It's not easy. It's a hard time to be alive. But at the same time, what an opportunity to shine, because our calling is to be the light and salt of the world. Yeah. So right before this pandemic started, I love reading, so I picked up a couple books on pandemics. And one of the books was just stories on pandemics. One was kind of how they deal with it. The other one was more the stories behind it. And I'm telling you what, it was a horror book. I mean, beyond, I was so scared reading this book. It was horror story after horror story. Yeah, there's this story about the Black Plague in the 1300s. Well, they talk about like the social distancing, basically. And it was, you could read up on this. It was such a horrible disease, that people at the beginning first started, social distancing, but then it became such a scary disease that people just quit seeing each other, started isolating themselves as much as possible. It got to a point, it was so bad that if one of your children got it, you would abandon them. Yeah, that's a dark time. Probably why it's called the Black Plague. Later, 300 years later, kind of basically the same disease hit again. Now they call it the bubonic plague. It was so bad. It says that cities just came apart. The basic necessities of a city, people couldn't do those jobs anymore. It was so bad that people just started fleeing. There's a rumor, it's just kind of said in the book, that the next generation forgot what the word compassion meant. Could you imagine? Isn't that crazy? Forget what the word compassion even means? Just 100 years ago, the Spanish flu. So bad. In the U.S. alone, 600,000 people died. 600,000. In the early 1900s, we're talking about, if you just scale that to today's, air travel and, how interconnected and how many more people live in the U.S. today, it'd be millions. Talking about 600,000 people in 1920, 1918. And it got so bad, hospitals were so overwhelmed that they started begging for volunteers. Begging anybody that would come and just help carry the sick or carry out the dead, or just help us with anything, feeding people and giving them food, water, whatever. We need volunteers. And it all fell on deaf ears. No one would come and help. And it was also in the book that when a family got sick, because it was an airborne, disease, so if one of them got sick, they all kind of got sick. What started happening is that, whole families would get sick and they couldn't count on family members or neighbors to come and help them. And several families didn't die of the flu. They started dying of starvation because no one was there to help. Now, while I was reading this book, it was just horror story after horror story, these dark times, and we're living through another one. I'm just so sad while reading it, and then all of a sudden I find this small little story. It was just a sliver of light in the middle of darkness. Such a dark book, but there was this sliver of light of this city right next to the Mississippi River. In 1878, they got this hard, just a season of yellow fever. It was horrible, devastating. The city, it was 100,000 people-ish. 60% of them, anybody that could, got out of that city. They didn't really understand that it came from mosquitoes, but they saw that no one in the desert areas or up in the north were getting this disease, so they just got out of the location. Anybody that had the means to was out of there. It was a small group of monks of these, sorry, vas a tener que editar esto. ¿Cuál es la palabra de monja? Nuns. A lo mejor puedes poner unas fotos en esta. Sorry, te busco las fotos. There was a small group of nuns. I don't know, a little over 40 nuns just stayed in this place. Even though they were inviting them to just get out of there, the Catholic Church was offering, we'll pay, just get out of there. But a little over 40 just stayed to be able to take care of people in their dying breaths, basically. And these nuns just ended up giving their lives, because 38 of them died for staying. And they stayed to, put wet rags on the feverish, to feed the hungry, to go visit the sick, just do anything they could to help. 38 of them lost their lives. What takes a human being to give their life to bring some relief to the dying? I think that has to do with the hope of resurrection, or what Jesus called life and life in abundance. John 4 tells us the story of the Samaritan woman who goes up to this well to find water. Jesus is sitting there and he asks for water. And she says, "Why are you asking me for water?" And Jesus says, "If you knew who I was, you'd be asking me for water, because the water I give, you'll never thirst again." It's the same life and life in abundance. That when we drink from the water that Jesus gives us, we're so full that we start pouring over, because we have hope. We have hope in the resurrection. Such hope that we're willing to give our lives to love other people, to look for the peace and prosperity of others. We're called to be the light, salt of the earth. And we're supposed to, when someone opens a book on pandemics, we're supposed to shine through, because we gave our lives to bring relief to our neighbor, to our family, to those around us. If we're really the church, we're supposed to shine like a city on the hill. Not just because we're awesome, but because we serve because we give our lives for others. Yeah. So this will end. Eventually, it will end. I know some days it feels like this is going to end in 2038, right? But it will end. It will eventually end. All pandemics end some way or another. I don't know when. I'm not going to claim like it's tomorrow. Sure, it feels like the world's spinning right now, so I don't know when this is going to end, but it will end. It'll end up being a season in your life. You know what frustrates me about the story in Exodus? Is that Israel, the children of God, get rescued from Egypt. They're taken into the desert. They're on their way to the promised land. God has given them bread, quail. He's given them a cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night. And now they come to a place where there's no water. Do you think God wasn't going to give them water? Out of all the miracles he's done, of course he's going to give them water. He's just going to let them die? No. But because they complained so hard, the place wasn't called, I really wish, it could have been called the place of the miracle of the water, Water came out of a rock. They could have named it that, but no. It ended up being named the place where there was a discussion and a quarrel, where there was complaint, where there was doubt. Is God with us or not? So my question is, I'm sure this season's going to end, better end. When is it going to end? I don't know. But when it ends, what is God going to name this season of your life? What's it going to be called? Is it going to be called the time God provided, that God protected, that God brought peace? Or is it going to be called, the season I watched more Netflix than ever? The season I fought with people on Facebook? The season I mostly fought with my wife and family? Or it could be called the time when God rescued my marriage. So I don't know. Right when this thing started, I don't know. I just had this feeling like I was not fearful of the virus itself. I'm not in the weak and vulnerable. I'm not in the old crowd. So personally, I wasn't too scared, but I started feeling afraid about something else. I just had a feeling this pandemic is not going to be known for. I mean, I'm not demeaning how much every life matters, but I don't think it's gonna be about how many people died. I think it's gonna be more about the economic side of it. It's devastating economically, especially down here in Mexico where we're at. It's pretty rough. And I knew once we close our doors, stop having services to the public, that would affect my personal income. I'm also a traveling speaker, so that would also affect it, right? I knew this is going to affect our money, our whatever money comes in. So right away, that was kind of the first fear. And we're not going to have enough money. So I'm praying about it and talking it over with my wife, without even reading Exodus 17 or having this idea of what is this season going to be called. We decided right from before this started, you know what? We want to name this time the time we gave the most generous time of our lives so far. I'm proud to say we've been able to do it. The math does not add up. But in the last 5 years, on average, we've made the least amount of money that we've made in the last 5 years during this 3-month period. But at the same time, if you took the average of how much we've given in the last 5 years, we've given the most by far. It does not add up. My brain doesn't calculate it. But I know how much we've given to the church, to people around us, to families in other cities. God has just given us just eyes to find where can we give. Because I don't want to end this season saying, yeah, this was the time I watched most series on Netflix. Oh God, no, please. I don't want it to be that time. I want to name it something good. I want to just encourage you to name this also. So yeah. So what are you going to name this season? What's it going to be called? Once it's over. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be over hopefully sooner than later. Who knows? But it will be done. And when it ends, what will it be called? What will God name this season? So I hope I was able to encourage you a little bit. Love you guys, and I'll pass it back on to Justin. See ya.